It began as a quiet conversation behind palace doors, one so private that even senior aides were reportedly excluded. Yet within hours, whispers started spreading through royal circles. A cherished piece of Princess Diana's legacy had become the focus of an unexpected decision, and at the center of it all stood Princess Catherine. What first appeared to be a routine and family discussion soon evolved into a story that could reshape the symbolism of royal inheritance for years to come. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The first signs that something unusual was unfolding emerged not through official statements, but through the sudden silence that seemed to settle over several key royal offices. According to palace insiders, King Charles had requested a highly confidential meeting with a small circle of trusted advisors, individuals known for handling some of the monarchy's most sensitive matters. Such meetings were not unheard of, but what made this one different was the extraordinary level of discretion surrounding it. Staff members who normally coordinated schedules reportedly found themselves excluded from certain discussions, while long-established communication channels appeared unusually restricted. Almost immediately, speculation began to spread. What issue could possibly require such secrecy at a time when the royal family was already navigating immense public scrutiny and internal pressures? As whispers intensified, attention quickly turned toward an object that carried profound emotional significance throughout modern royal history: Princess Diana's sapphire brooch. More than a piece of jewelry, it had long been viewed by royal observers as a symbol of memory, continuity, and unfinished legacy. For decades, items associated with Diana had occupied a unique place within public imagination. They were not simply heirlooms. They represented a connection to a woman whose influence continued to shape conversations about the monarchy long after her passing. Reports soon suggested that discussions during the private meeting centered on the future stewardship of this treasured piece, raising immediate questions about who might ultimately become its next guardian. What transformed quiet curiosity into genuine intrigue, however, was the reported involvement of Princess Catherine. Sources claimed that she had been quietly invited to attend a confidential audience connected to the matter. No public explanation followed, no announcement was made, yet the timing immediately caught the attention of royal insiders. Catherine's role within the institution had expanded dramatically in recent years, and many had begun to view her as one of the most important figures in securing the monarchy's future. Her reputation for duty, restraint, and respect for royal traditions had earned admiration both inside and outside palace walls. Still, few expected her name to become linked to a decision involving one of Diana's most meaningful personal treasures. The secrecy surrounding the reported discussions only deepened the mystery. Palace staff allegedly noticed subtle but unmistakable signs that something significant was underway. Meetings appeared on schedules and disappeared without explanation. Advisors arrived through private entrances. Certain correspondence was handled personally, rather than through routine channels. These details, while seemingly minor on their own, combined to create an atmosphere of anticipation, unlike anything seen in recent months. It was as though the institution itself understood the symbolic weight of what was being considered, and wished to control every aspect of the process before word reached the outside world. Then came another revelation. According to several royal commentators, the possibility of transferring the sapphire brooch had not emerged suddenly. Instead, insiders claimed the matter had been quietly discussed for months behind closed doors. If true, that raised an even more compelling question. Why now? Why would King Charles reportedly choose this particular moment to move forward with a decision carrying such emotional and historical significance? Some believed it reflected long-term succession planning. Others suggested it represented a deeply personal effort to preserve Diana's legacy through a figure increasingly viewed as central to the monarchy's next chapter. Whatever the reason, one thing had become clear. This was never merely about ownership. It was about symbolism, trust, and the future direction of the royal family itself. And as more details slowly began to emerge from behind palace walls, It became impossible to ignore the deeper story waiting beneath the surface. But the sapphire brooch was never just another royal jewel. It carried a history filled with emotion, symbolism, and unfinished chapters. Long before it became the subject of palace whispers, the sapphire brooch represented something far greater than its gemstones. It was linked to one of the most beloved figures in modern royal history. And its story stretched across decades of triumph, heartbreak, and transformation. The growing speculation surrounding the reported transfer could not be understood without first understanding the extraordinary weight carried by the sapphire brooch itself. While many royal jewels are admired for their craftsmanship or rarity, this piece occupied a different place entirely. It had become intertwined with memory, emotion, and a chapter of royal history that continues to resonate with millions around the world. Long before discussions about Princess Catherine emerged, long before confidential meetings reportedly took place behind palace walls, the brooch had already secured its place within a story far larger than the monarchy's collection of treasured heirlooms. It was not simply valued because of what it was. It was valued because of who had worn it, what it had witnessed, and what it had come to symbolize. For many royal observers, the jewel's significance became inseparable from Diana, Princess of Wales. Throughout her years in the public eye, Diana possessed a remarkable ability to transform even the smallest royal gesture into something deeply meaningful. Objects associated with her often carried emotional power because they became connected to moments that shaped public memory. The sapphire brooch was no exception. Over time, it evolved from an elegant royal accessory into a symbol linked to Diana's unique place within the institution. Her ability to balance duty with compassion, tradition with modernity, and responsibility with humanity created a legacy that few royal figures have ever matched. As a result, anything connected to her story inevitably carried layers of meaning far beyond material value. What made the brooch especially powerful was the way it seemed to accompany some of the most memorable periods of Diana's public life. Royal commentators frequently pointed to its appearances during significant engagements and important moments that helped define an era. As years passed, the jewel became woven into countless recollections surrounding Diana's journey. Each appearance strengthened its symbolic importance. Each memory attached another layer of meaning. Eventually, the sapphire brooch ceased to be viewed merely as part of a royal collection. Instead, it became a quiet reminder of a figure whose influence endured despite changing generations, shifting public attitudes, and the relentless passage of time. That enduring connection created something extraordinary. The brooch carried emotional value that could never be measured by gemstones, historical records, or auction estimates. To many people, it represented continuity. It served as a bridge between the past and the future, connecting Diana's legacy to the ongoing story of the monarchy. While royal treasures often pass from one generation to another, few do so with such intense public interest. This was not simply a question of inheritance. It was a question of stewardship. Whoever became the next custodian of the sapphire brooch would inevitably inherit part of the responsibility that came with preserving Diana's memory. That reality explains why discussions surrounding its future generated such fascination. Royal symbols have always played an important role in maintaining continuity across generations. Titles evolve. Responsibilities change. Individuals come and go. Yet certain objects endure, carrying the stories of those who came before. The sapphire brooch had become one of those rare symbols. It stood as a reminder that legacy is not preserved through words alone. Sometimes it survives through traditions, heirlooms, and carefully chosen acts that link the present to the past. As rumors surrounding King Charles's reported decision continued to spread, many observers found themselves asking the same question. If the sapphire brooch truly represented such an important piece of Diana's legacy, who could possibly be trusted to carry that responsibility into the future? Increasingly, the answer seemed to point toward one individual whose role within the monarchy had grown steadily stronger with each passing year. And as conversations about the brooch intensified, attention shifted toward the woman many believed embodied Diana's legacy more than anyone else. For years, royal watchers noticed subtle parallels between Princess Catherine and Princess Diana. Some saw echoes of grace, others saw a shared dedication to duty. Now, those comparisons were reportedly influencing one of the most significant private decisions inside the monarchy. As speculation surrounding the Sapphire Brooch continued to spread through royal circles, one name surfaced again and again: Princess Catherine. It was not merely because she had reportedly been included in confidential discussions, nor because her position within the institution had become increasingly important. It was because, over many years, she had quietly become associated with qualities that many believed reflected some of the very values Diana had embodied. The comparisons had never been officially encouraged, yet they persisted. They emerged from public conversations, royal commentary, and the growing perception that Catherine represented a bridge between the monarchy's historic traditions and its uncertain future. What began as occasional observations had gradually evolved into a powerful narrative, one that now appeared to be influencing decisions at the highest levels of royal life. The journey that brought Catherine to this moment had not been defined by dramatic declarations or sudden transformations. Instead, it had been built through patience, consistency, and an unwavering commitment to responsibility. Over the years, she had taken on greater duties while navigating extraordinary public scrutiny. Each challenge seemed to reinforce her standing rather than weaken it. While others became associated with controversy or division, Catherine increasingly became linked with stability and continuity. That reputation did not emerge overnight. It was earned through years of careful dedication, making her one of the most trusted figures within the royal family. As a result, when whispers emerged about Diana's sapphire brooch, many observers immediately understood why her name had become central to the conversation. At the same time, public admiration for Catherine continued to grow. For some, the comparisons to Diana centered on compassion and approachability. For others, they reflected something deeper: the ability to carry immense public expectations without allowing those pressures to overshadow a sense of duty. Diana had occupied a unique place in history because she connected with people in ways few public figures ever achieve. Catherine's path was different, yet many believed she possessed a similar understanding of service and responsibility. Those perceptions only strengthened the belief that, if a treasured piece of Diana's legacy were to pass to someone else, it would need to be someone capable of honoring not only the jewel itself, but also the emotional significance attached to it. Adding even greater weight to the discussion was Catherine's future role within the monarchy. As the future queen consort, she represented more than a senior royal figure. She represented the institution's next chapter. Every decision connected to her carried implications far beyond the present moment. Royal symbols, heirlooms, and traditions are rarely viewed in isolation. They become part of a larger story about continuity and succession. If the sapphire brooch truly was being considered for transfer, many believed the decision reflected confidence in Catherine's ability to safeguard an important piece of royal history for generations yet to come. According to insiders, that confidence extended well beyond public perception. Reports suggested that senior members of the royal family had developed deep trust in Catherine's judgment, discretion, and commitment to duty. Such trust becomes especially significant when decisions involve emotionally charged legacies. Diana's memory remains one of the most powerful forces within modern royal history. Preserving that legacy requires sensitivity, care, and an understanding that certain symbols carry meaning far beyond ceremonial appearances. Those close to the institution reportedly understood that reality all too well. Yet with trust comes expectation, and expectations surrounding Catherine had never been higher. Every step forward seemed to bring additional responsibility. Every honor carried greater significance. If the rumors surrounding the sapphire brooch proved true, the gesture would be viewed by many as more than a transfer of ownership. It would be seen as a statement about the future, about legacy, and about who would ultimately carry forward one of the most cherished connections to Diana's enduring influence. But as those discussions continued to unfold behind palace walls, another reality became impossible to ignore. Powerful symbols often inspire admiration, but they can also provoke resistance. And the larger the symbol, the greater the potential consequences. Yet, not everyone was expected to welcome such a decision, especially those who understood the power that royal symbols can carry. According to royal whispers, the moment itself was surprisingly quiet. No public announcement, no grand ceremony, just a series of private discussions, carefully prepared documents, and a decision that could carry enormous symbolic weight. The deeper palace insiders looked into the growing speculation, the more unusual the reported process appeared to be. In an institution built upon centuries of tradition, important decisions are often accompanied by carefully managed public messaging, symbolic gestures, and visible acknowledgments of their significance. Yet reports surrounding the Sapphire Brooch suggested something very different. There were no formal announcements, no public appearances connected to the matter, no indication that one of the most emotionally significant royal heirlooms was at the center of ongoing discussions. Instead, according to those familiar with the situation, everything unfolded behind closed doors, away from public attention, as though those involved understood that the decision carried a level of sensitivity that extended far beyond ordinary royal protocol. At the center of those reports stood King Charles. Sources claimed that the monarch had privately authorized steps related to the future of Diana's Sapphire Brooch after months of careful consideration. If true, the decision would represent far more than a routine transfer of a family possession. The brooch was not simply another item within the royal collection. It was a symbol attached to memory, legacy, and one of the most emotionally charged chapters in modern royal history. That reality may explain why, according to palace whispers, every stage of the process was reportedly handled with extraordinary caution. Those involved allegedly understood that even the smallest leak could ignite widespread speculation about the monarchy's future direction. What followed, according to various accounts, was a series of confidential preparations that remained largely hidden from public view. Royal insiders suggested that paperwork connected to the reported transfer was quietly assembled behind palace walls. Every detail was allegedly reviewed with exceptional care. Every procedural step was examined. While official confirmation never emerged, those familiar with royal operations claimed that senior advisors played an important role in overseeing the process. Their involvement reportedly ensured that the matter remained consistent with both royal tradition and long-term institutional planning. Such scrutiny only reinforced the growing belief that this was not an impulsive gesture, but a carefully considered decision carrying significant implications. Perhaps most striking was the effort reportedly made to keep information from reaching the public domain. Throughout the process, palace secrecy appeared unusually intense. Conversations remained restricted. Information moved through a tightly controlled circle. Individuals who normally might have become aware of developments reportedly found themselves excluded from key discussions. That level of discretion naturally fueled even greater curiosity. The more carefully information was protected, the more people wondered what made the decision so important. And as rumors spread, one theme repeatedly emerged from those attempting to understand the situation. The reported transfer was never being framed as a matter of wealth or personal possession. Instead, it was being discussed as a matter of stewardship. That distinction mattered enormously. Royal treasures are often viewed differently from ordinary inheritances. Their significance frequently lies not in financial value, but in what they represent. According to commentators following the story, the Sapphire Brooch had become part of a larger conversation about continuity and legacy. If King Charles truly approved its transfer, many believed the decision reflected confidence in the individual chosen to safeguard its meaning for future generations. In that sense, the brooch became less a jewel and more a symbol of trust. The timing also fueled growing speculation about succession planning. While no official connection was ever confirmed, some observers believed the reported decision reflected a broader effort to prepare the monarchy for its next era. As responsibilities continue shifting toward a new generation, symbolic choices inevitably attract heightened attention. Every gesture is analyzed. Every decision is interpreted. Every transfer is viewed through the lens of the institution's future. And if the Sapphire Brooch was indeed part of that larger strategy, its significance extended far beyond the object itself. Yet as carefully as the matter was reportedly handled, secrecy rarely survives forever within royal circles. Rumors have a way of escaping even the strongest walls, and once fragments of the story began reaching commentators, aides, and observers, a new phase of the drama quietly began to unfold. Questions multiplied, motives were examined, assumptions were challenged, and before long, the focus shifted from whether the transfer had occurred to what it truly meant for the royal family moving forward. But once word of the alleged transfer began circulating, palace corridors reportedly filled with questions about what it truly meant. The story spread quickly among royal insiders. Some reportedly viewed the move as a natural continuation of Diana's legacy. Others interpreted it as a powerful statement about the future direction of the monarchy. Once whispers about the alleged transfer escaped the confines of private palace discussions, the reaction was immediate. What had begun as a closely guarded matter suddenly became one of the most talked-about subjects among royal commentators, insiders, and longtime observers of the monarchy. Yet what made the story so fascinating was not the reported transfer itself. It was the dramatically different ways people interpreted its meaning. For some, the decision seemed entirely logical, even inevitable. They believed that if Diana's sapphire brooch were to be entrusted to anyone, Princess Catherine represented the most natural choice. Others, however, saw something much larger unfolding beneath the surface. To them, the reported decision was not merely about honoring the past. It was about defining the future. The debate quickly intensified. Commentators who had spent years studying royal traditions began offering competing interpretations. Some argued that the transfer represented continuity, a careful effort to ensure that one of Diana's most cherished symbols remained connected to the institution she had helped reshape. Others suggested the move carried a more strategic message. They believed it signaled growing confidence in Catherine's position as one of the monarchy's most important figures. If that interpretation proved correct, then the brooch was serving a purpose far beyond preserving memory. It was quietly reinforcing Catherine's place within the evolving structure of the royal family. That possibility sparked even greater discussion. Throughout royal history, symbolic gestures have often communicated what official statements never could. A title, a role, a public responsibility, or even a treasured heirloom can reveal where influence is shifting long before formal announcements are made. Many observers wondered whether the sapphire brooch belonged to that category. Was it simply a heartfelt tribute to Diana's enduring legacy? Or was it also a subtle acknowledgement of Catherine's growing importance as the monarchy prepares for future transitions? The more those questions circulated, the more attention the story attracted. At the same time, public fascination with anything connected to Diana remained as powerful as ever. Decades after her passing, her legacy continued to evoke extraordinary emotion. Heirlooms associated with her were never viewed as ordinary royal possessions. They carried stories, memories, and connections that transcended generations. That reality ensured that every rumor surrounding the sapphire brooch attracted intense interest. People were not merely discussing jewelry. They were discussing what Diana represented and who might become the next guardian of that legacy. In many ways, the emotional power of the story stemmed from that deeper connection rather than the object itself. As coverage expanded, media speculation inevitably turned toward the future. Questions about succession, leadership, and the monarch's next chapter began appearing alongside discussions of the brooch. Some commentators suggest the reported transfer reflected broader preparations already taking place behind palace walls. Others cautioned against reading too much into a single decision. Yet even those voices acknowledged an important truth. The symbolism surrounding Catherine had become impossible to ignore. Whether intentionally or not, The reported move appeared to strengthen perceptions of her role as a central figure in the institution's future. The growing scrutiny also placed palace dynamics under a brighter spotlight. Every relationship, every alliance, and every perceived shift in influence became the subject of speculation. Observers searched for clues within public appearances, official engagements, and reported private conversations. Some saw signs of a carefully managed transition. Others detected competing priorities and differing visions for the monarchy's future. The uncertainty only fueled additional intrigue. The more people attempted to understand the meaning behind the alleged transfer, the more complicated the story appeared to become. Yet amid all the debate, one realization gradually emerged. The sapphire brooch itself was becoming almost secondary to the larger questions surrounding it. What truly captivated royal watchers was not simply who might receive the heirloom, but what that decision appeared to reveal about the direction of the institution. Symbols matter because they communicate priorities. They reveal trust. They highlight values. And as speculation continued to grow, many began to wonder whether the reported transfer was offering a rare glimpse into the long-term thinking of the monarch himself. Yet the most revealing aspect of the story was not the brooch itself, but what the decision appeared to say about King Charles's vision for the future. Every royal gift carries a message. Every inheritance tells a story. And according to those following the developments closely, this decision may have been designed to communicate something far larger than the transfer of a single jewel. As discussions surrounding the sapphire brooch continued to dominate royal conversations, many observers began shifting their focus away from the heirloom itself and toward the individual believed to have authorized its reported transfer. King Charles had spent years navigating one of the most challenging periods in modern royal history. He inherited not only a crown, but also the immense responsibility of guiding an institution through changing expectations, public scrutiny, and generational transition. Against that backdrop, every decision carried additional significance. Nothing existed in isolation. Every gesture was examined for deeper meaning. Every symbolic act was viewed through the lens of continuity and stability. That is why so many commentators believed the reported decision surrounding Diana's sapphire brooch revealed something important about how Charles envisioned the monarchy's future. For decades, the monarchy has relied upon more than ceremonies and titles to preserve its identity. It has relied upon symbols. These symbols serve as connections between generations, reminding the public that while individuals change, certain traditions endure. According to royal insiders, Charles has long understood the importance of maintaining those links. If reports surrounding the brooch proved accurate, many believed the decision reflected a deliberate effort to strengthen continuity during a period of transition. Rather than allowing one of Diana's most meaningful heirlooms to become simply another piece of royal history, the reported transfer appeared designed to ensure that its legacy remained connected to the monarchy's future. That future, increasingly, seemed centered on a new generation of leadership. Throughout recent years, responsibilities have gradually shifted toward those expected to carry the institution forward in the decades ahead. The process has been careful and measured, but impossible to ignore. Public duties have expanded. Expectations have increased. New faces have assumed greater prominence. Against that backdrop, many commentators viewed the sapphire brooch as part of a larger narrative unfolding behind palace walls. It was not merely about honoring the past. It was about preparing for what comes next. And if that interpretation was correct, the decision represented an acknowledgement that preserving history sometimes requires entrusting it to those who will shape the future. At the heart of that conversation stood Princess Catherine. Her influence within the royal family had grown steadily over time, not through dramatic declarations, but through consistency and trust. Reports suggested that senior royals increasingly viewed her as a stabilizing presence during an era marked by uncertainty and change. That perception carried enormous significance. In institutions built upon continuity, trust is among the most valuable assets of all. The reported transfer of such an emotionally significant heirloom would therefore be viewed by many not simply as an honor, but as an expression of confidence. A signal that Catherine's role extended beyond her current responsibilities and into the monarchy's long-term vision. The symbolism became even more powerful because of what the brooch represented. Diana's legacy remains one of the most enduring forces within modern royal history. Preserving that legacy requires more than safeguarding physical objects. It requires maintaining the values, memories, and emotional connections attached to them. Many observers believe that was precisely why the reported transfer resonated so strongly. The decision appeared to acknowledge that iconic royal symbols must remain relevant to each new generation while still honoring their origins. It was a delicate balance between remembrance and renewal, between preserving history and preparing for tomorrow. There was also another dimension to the story: public confidence. The monarchy's strength has always depended, in part, upon the public's belief in its continuity and stability. Every carefully considered decision contributes to that perception. If the reported transfer was intended to reinforce Catherine's position within the institution, then it may also have served a broader purpose, strengthening confidence in the leadership expected to guide the monarchy through future challenges. Symbolic decisions often communicate reassurance when words alone cannot. And perhaps that is what made the story so compelling. The reported transfer appeared to operate on multiple levels at once. It honored Diana's memory. It acknowledged Catherine's growing importance. It reinforced continuity. It hinted at long-term planning. Most importantly, it suggested that even the most private royal decisions can carry profound public meaning. Yet for all the discussion surrounding King Charles and his intentions, another question was beginning to emerge from the growing speculation. If the sapphire brooch truly represented such a significant gesture, how would Catherine herself view the responsibility that came with it? As speculation intensified, attention turned toward how Catherine herself might respond to such a deeply personal honor. Receiving a historic royal heirloom is one thing. Becoming the guardian of its legacy is something entirely different. Those close to royal traditions understand that such gifts often carry responsibilities far beyond appearances. As attention increasingly shifted toward Princess Catherine, the conversation surrounding the sapphire brooch entered a more personal and emotional phase. For weeks, speculation had focused on King Charles, palace discussions, and the possible meaning behind the reported transfer. But now another question stood at the center of the story. What would it mean for Catherine herself? Because while royal heirlooms often symbolize continuity, they also carry expectations. They become reminders of those who came before and obligations toward those who will follow. In that sense, the sapphire brooch represented far more than an honor. It represented a responsibility that few people could fully understand. Part of the reason many believed Catherine was uniquely suited to that responsibility stemmed from her long-standing reputation for respecting royal tradition. Throughout her years within the institution, she had developed a reputation for approaching even the most symbolic duties with care and restraint. Unlike figures who sought attention through dramatic gestures, Catherine's influence often appeared strongest when she allowed actions to speak louder than words. That approach earned trust. It reassured senior members of the royal family, and it strengthened the perception that she understood the delicate balance required when handling symbols deeply connected to royal history. If the sapphire brooch truly became part of her stewardship, many believed it would be treated not as a personal possession, but as part of a larger legacy. Yet the emotional dimension of the story could never be separated from Diana's memory. That reality lingered over every discussion, every rumor, and every interpretation. Diana remains one of the most influential figures in modern royal history, and any heirloom associated with her inevitably carries emotional significance. The connection would likely be especially meaningful. Over the years, public comparisons between the two women had become increasingly common. While their journeys were different, both became symbols of dedication, resilience, and service during periods of enormous public attention. The reported transfer of the Sapphire Brooch therefore seemed to create a bridge between two generations linked by duty, expectation, and an enduring connection to the monarchy's evolving story. Those connections also fueled growing anticipation about the future. Royal observers immediately began wondering how the brooch might eventually appear in public life. Would it become part of important state occasions? Would it be reserved for moments carrying special significance? Or would its use remain intentionally rare, reinforcing the symbolic weight attached to it? Questions like these only intensified public fascination. Every possibility generated fresh discussion. Every rumor inspired new interpretations. Yet beneath all that curiosity remained an important understanding. The true significance of the brooch would never depend solely on when it appeared. It would depend on how its legacy was preserved. That challenge highlights the delicate balance Catherine would potentially face. Royal symbols derive their power from continuity, but continuity requires thoughtful stewardship. The brooch could not become merely a reminder of the past, nor could it lose the meaning attached to Diana's legacy. Instead, it would need to exist within both worlds simultaneously. It would need to honor memory while remaining relevant to the future. Such responsibilities are rarely discussed openly, yet they form an essential part of preserving the monarchy's identity across generations. Perhaps that is why so many people viewed Catherine's role as particularly important. She increasingly appeared to represent a connection between eras. One generation remembered Diana's influence firsthand. Another looked toward the future. Catherine and William would eventually help shape. The reported transfer of the Sapphire Brooch seemed to unite those two worlds through a single symbol. It connected history with continuity, memory with responsibility, and legacy with renewal. In many ways, that connection became the true heart of the story. And yet, as compelling as the personal dimension may have been, larger questions continued to linger. The brooch represented more than Diana. It represented more than Catherine. It represented something about the institution itself and the choices being made to secure its future. The reported transfer had sparked conversations reaching far beyond royal jewelry or family tradition. It had opened a broad debate about leadership, legacy, and continuity. And as the story approached its final chapter, one question remained. What would this moment ultimately mean for the monarchy itself? In the end, the story was never truly about gemstones or royal collections. It was about legacy, about memory, about who carries forward the symbols that define an institution built upon history, continuity, and duty. As the speculation surrounding Diana's sapphire brooch gradually settled into a broader conversation about the future of the monarchy, one truth became impossible to ignore. The emotional power of this story did not come from the jewel itself. It came from everything the jewel represented. For years, royal observers had followed discussions about succession, tradition, and change. Yet few stories seemed to bring all those themes together as powerfully as this one. The reported transfer became a reflection of something much larger than a private royal decision. It became a symbol of how the monarchy preserves its identity while preparing for the generations that will eventually inherit its responsibilities. At the center of that symbolism remained the enduring influence of Diana, Princess of Wales. Decades after her passing, her legacy continues to occupy a unique place in public memory. Very few figures have left such a lasting impact on both the institution they served and the people who followed their journey. Diana's story was filled with triumphs and struggles, admiration and heartbreak, public devotion and personal challenges. Yet through all the years that have passed, one thing has remained remarkably constant. Her influence never truly disappeared. Instead, it evolved. It became woven into the continuing narrative of the royal family itself. That is why any decision connected to her legacy inevitably attracts extraordinary attention. People are not simply remembering the past. They are trying to understand how that past continues to shape the future. In many ways, Catherine's growing place within the monarchy represents part of that future. Over time, she has become one of the institution's most trusted and respected figures. Her journey has unfolded under intense scrutiny, yet she has consistently demonstrated patience, dedication, and an understanding of the responsibilities that come with royal life. Those qualities have strengthened the belief that she will play a central role in guiding the monarchy through the years ahead. If the reports surrounding the Sapphire Brooch are accurate, many observers believe the decision reflects confidence not only in Catherine herself, but also in the future she represents. It suggests that preserving important legacies requires placing trust in those capable of carrying them forward. That perspective also helps explain why King Charles's reported involvement attracted so much attention. Throughout his reign, one of his greatest challenges has been balancing continuity with change. The monarchy cannot remain frozen in time, yet it must also preserve the traditions that define its identity. Every significant decision, therefore, becomes part of that balancing act. The reported transfer of the Sapphire Brooch appears to fit within that larger effort. It reflects an understanding that symbols matter because they connect generations. They provide stability during periods of transition and help ensure that important stories are not forgotten. The power of royal symbolism has always rested in its ability to communicate meaning without lengthy explanation. A title, a role, a tradition, or an heirloom can often express more than official statements ever could. The Sapphire Brooch became part of that language. It represented continuity. It represented remembrance. Most importantly, it represented trust. Trust in the people chosen to protect the institution's history while preparing it for the future. That symbolism is precisely why public fascination with royal heritage remains so strong. People understand that these stories are not merely about objects. They are about identity, responsibility, and the values passed from one generation to the next. Perhaps that is why this story resonated so deeply. It brought together the past, the present, and the future within a single narrative. Diana's legacy remained at its heart. Catherine's role pointed toward what lies ahead. King Charles's reported decision served as the bridge connecting those two worlds. Whether viewed as the tribute, a statement of confidence, or a carefully considered act of succession planning, the meaning remained remarkably powerful. The next chapter of Diana's legacy would not be defined solely by memory. It would be shaped by those entrusted to carry that memory forward. Because while jewels may pass from one generation to the next, the legacy they represent can endure for decades, shaping the future long after the decision itself has been made. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.